This conference will now be recorded.
Chaturmukha samarambham Vagbhadacharyamadhyamam Asmadacharyaparyandam Vande Guru Paramparam Radhadirogan Sadadanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutanasheshan Aulsukyamoharadidan Jaghana Yo Purva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. Namaskaram to all. Today we will be discussing or completing the discussion on what we have started in our previous session. That means the remedial interventions that can be done in Sneha Vyapat. And we also already saw how the Sneha Vyapat happens. Amatraya ahido kale mithyahara viharataha Sneha karodi shobharsha tantra stambha visapnyada Kandu kushta jvara utklesha shula anaha brahmadigan. So adigan. So there are other possibilities as well. So we will have to expect these things to happen. The reason may be many. Amatraya akale ahitaha. Amatraya ahitaha akale ahitaha. Then mithyahara viharataha. Mithyahara viharataha. You can find Acharya Charaka explaining these sort of possibilities. And Charaka can be seen warning his students to be prepared for this sort of Vyapat. So here we find the example. Kshutrishnuleghana Sweda Rukshapananna Bheshajam Takrarishtaghaloddala Yava Shyamaga Kodravam Pippali Trubhala Chaudra Pathya Gomutra Guggulu Yadhaswam Pratirogam cha Pratirogam Roge Yathaswam, that according to the condition, whichever is appropriate, that one, it is known as Yathaswam. Pradirogam. So it is not a one fit for all type of remedy. This is a list of possibilities and you will have to select from it. Yathaswam pradirogam ja snehavyapati sadhanam. So chut nigraham, trishna nigraham, ullekhanam means vamanam, Swedanam is advised as a remedial intervention. Swedanam, obviously It could be a Rukshasvedanam. It could be a Rukshasvedanam. That is what we expect because of considering the situation. Rukshapana annabheshajam. That Ruksha Shabdam stands attached to each of the words. Rukshapanam, Rukshannam, Rukshabheshajam, Rukshapana bheshajam. Then Takram. Takram. We know the Kshira Vikriti, what we use. Takram. Arishtam. Arishtam is a type of Kalpana. Arishta Kalpana. Sometimes we can find this word together. Takrarishtam. Takrarishtam is a special yoga which we will find in conditions like Arshoroga Chikitsita. Ghalam. Ghalam is a type of recipe. Ghalam. Something like Pramathya. Then Uddalagam. Uddalagam is a type of grain. Ghala, Uddala, Yava, Shyamaga, Kodravam. They are all different types of grains. Dhanya Vishesham. Then Pippali. Pippali is a dravyam which is very famous. One among the Trikadu. Tribhala. Tribhala. Yam Rasayanavara Tribhala Akshamayapaha Robani Twagadakleda Meho Medo Twagadakleda Medo Meha Kabhasrajit. So that Tribhala. Chaudram. Chaudram. Madhu Vishesham. Madhu Vishesham. Pathya. Pathya is a part or an ingredient of Tribhala, but apart from that combination, it is given as an independent member as well. Pathya. Gomutram. Gomutram is again a Rukshadravya which can be effective in Snehhavyapat. Guggulu. Guggulu is famous for its Kleda Nirharana property. Its Kleda Nirharana property. So these are the options. Kshutrishno Rilekhana Sweda Rukshapananna Bheshajam. Takrarishta Ghalodala Yavashyamaga Kodravam. Pippali Tribhala Chaudra Pathya Gomutra Guggulu. Yadhaswam Pradirogam cha Snehavyapadi Sadhanam. So if you take the given examples of Rogam, Roga Vishesham, which is caused by Snehavyapad. Here, Snehavyapadi Sadhanam. Sadhanam is the Chikitsa. Snehavyapadi Chikitsa. So Snehavyapadi means in Snehavyapad Chikitsa. In Snehavyapad, this is the Chikitsa. But that Snehavyapad is not a single entity. That is why we find Yathaswam Pradirogam cha. Pradirogam. So in Snehavyapad, what is going to happen? What is going to happen is the list of diseases what we have seen as example. It is that list is not complete. It is a list which can be considered as an example of the rogas that can happen as a result of Snehavyapad. So in Snehavyapad Chikitsa, the care should be taken to choose the right sadhanam which will suit to the special samprapti and roga which is initiated by the sneha vyapat. So in shobha, arsha, tandra, stambha, visapnyataha, certain examples. Shobha, arsha, tandra, stambha, visapnyataha. Then kandu. Kandu is a lakshana. Kandu is a lakshana. So that lakshanam it is also considered as a rogam here. Kandu, kushtha, jwara, utklesha, shula, anaha, brahma, adigan, etc. etc. The list is not complete. This is partial. Some of them are listed here as examples. So from this list, Chut Trishna, Chut Nigraham, Trishna Nigraham, maybe in a Sneha Vyapat which uh, gives rise to Jwaram. Example, which gives rise to Jwaram. Chun Nigraham and Trishna Nigraham may be the Yadhaswam Pradirogam Sadhanam. In that given condition, sometimes Chun Nigraham and Trishna Nigraham, that could be the possible intervention. Whereas, if it is maybe Shobham due to Sneha Vyapat, Takram may be a good option or Gomutram may be a good option. So all remedial options need not fit into all clinical situations. You have to be very specific about the selection of the intervention. Apart from that, we should also remember certain important points. The Sneha Vyapat is a result of Amatraya ahitaha akale mithyahara viharataha. So Amatraya ahitaha. What? Sneha. Amatraya ahitaha snehaha. That can cause Vyapat. Amatra, wrong matra. Amatra. So how can this happen? This can happen in many ways. In the present lifestyle, this sort of a condition can happen even if one individual is not going through a program of Snehapanam. Due to different types of asana doshas, like samasanam, adhyasanam, vishamasanam, sangirna bhojanam. So like this, ajirna bhojanam, a similar condition can happen like Sneha Vyapat. And this is becoming very common. That is the importance of that idea. This is becoming very common. So all the amatraya ahita snehavyabalakshanas may be there, and the possible vyadhis may be presenting like shobham, arsham, tandra. Tandra, you take the case of tandra. Tandra is sort of a very severe case of inertia and lassitude or whatever it is, wherein the person, though awake, is not in a condition to act appropriately. Such a condition is known as tandra. So there can be many clinical situations where the tandra is the main symptom. Tandra is the main symptom. And when you do not have the idea of ahara pajanam, and how ahara pajanam is dependent upon a principle called Agni and its associate members, and how even a single episode of rasa sheshajirnam creates lakshanas of the sort of tiredness and lassitude or inertia. That is explained. All those points are well explained in a chapter called Matrasiti. Ashraddha, hrivyatha, shuddhepyudgare, rasasheshataha. That sort of things can be seen. There are many other possibilities. This is just an example. So, in such conditions, say for example, somebody who is getting late and late and late to take his dinner, night food, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, sometimes more than that. And not very keen about the regulation of food timings in 24 hours time. These lakshanas, what we have seen as the vyadhis of sneha vyapat, like shobha, arsha, tandrastambha visapnyataha, kandu kusthajwarotklesha, shulanaha bhramadigan. Most of these lakshanas are very common. And in such situations, we should look for the type of sneha vyabat that has happened indirectly. That has happened indirectly. It is a possibility. It is a possibility. So, in such conditions, as you may be knowing, कश्चिद्धि रोगा रोगस्य हेतुर्भूत्वा प्रणश्यति. That can happen. न शाम्यति चाप्यन्ये हेतुत्वं कुरुतेऽपि च. That is also a possibility. So one lakshana which is starting as a very minor vyadhi, paratantra vyadhi in sneha vyapat, not in the form of that snehapana vyapat, but a improperly processed sneha due to erratic eating habits that can open new doors for big spectrum of vyadhis. While explaining the samasanam, adhyasanam, vishamasanam, these three asana doshas, we can see in the textbook one very specific line which is lost unnoticed, left unnoticed by most of the readers. What is that line? त्रीण्यप्येतानि मृत्युं वा घोरान् व्याधीन् सृजन्ति वा त्रीण्यप्येतानि मृत्युं वा घोरान् व्याधीन् सृजन्ति वा. So one त्रीण्यप्येतानि, in all those three situations there are possibilities of a similar situation like this Snehhavyapat, and that can cause mrityum va, sometimes mrityu, khoran vyadhin srujanti va, or it can cause ghoran vyadhin, ghora vyadhis. A list is not given, but that word used is so strong. Ghoran vyadhin srujanti va. What are those ghora vyadhis? It can be anything. These days, we find many diseases are emerging and many diseases are evolving. Autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic disorders. So they give different names, but ultimately त्रीण्यप्येतानि मृत्युं वा घोरान् व्याधीन् सृजन्ति वा. Let it be cancer, let it be lung fibrosis, let it be that NASH, what is called uh, that fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, or hypercholesterolemia, or autoimmune thyroiditis, many other things. So whenever you are dealing with such conditions, this snehavyapat options, amatraya ahitaha akale mithyahara viharataha sneha karodi shobha. Shobham is the first vyadhi explained. Shobham is the first vyadhi explained here. That is actually very, very important. It is very purposeful, I should say. It is very purposeful. Why? Because this Shobham represents a big list of non-specific ailments. It represents a big list of ailments. You can remember the big list of diseases explained in the chapter called Trishobhiyam in Charaka Samhita. So we find, and generally among practitioners, among Vaidyas, there is a concept that Shobha is the first stage of all vikaras, all vyadhis. and a Shobha can develop into any Vyadhi. So when as part of Sneha Vyapat, when Shobha is given as the first Vyadhi, that tells many things. So in all such conditions, here we have a big list of very powerful, very precise, very specific interventions like Kshutrishna Ulle. So just imagine why these, why do we allow these wonderful ideas to sleep dormant in our pages. See, Snehavyapat, the word Snehavyapat can communicate volumes because Snehasaro ayam Purushaha. Snehasaro ayam Purushaha. So when Snehavyapat, the word Snehavyapat is used, that means it is not just the word meaning or the contextual meaning is all about the vyapat that can happen in the administration of sneha. But sneha vyapat can also be read as the vyapat that can happen to sneha. The vyapat that can happen to sneha. Then what does it mean? Then it means the vyapat that can happen to the dhatus, everything in the body, in terms of its consistency, in terms of its gunavikalpa, all these things. And interestingly, they are one and same. That means the vyapat that can happen due to the faulty administration of sneha and the vyapat that is happening to the sneha of the sharira are basically same, because this sneha is going to either be converted as dhatus or be very influential on the status of dhatus. Even if you consider the samanya vishesha siddhanta, वृद्धि समानैः सर्वेषां विपरीतैर्विपर्ययः. This statement will be very impressive and effective. So this these three lines what we find here, that means Kshutrishnollekhanasveda rukshapana annabheshajam takrarishtaghaloddala yavashyamaga kodravam yathaswam pradirog. So those three lines are over. Yathaswam pradirogam cha snehavyapati sadhanam. All these things can be used in the so-called sandarpanotha vikaras in general. Sandarpanotha vikaras in general. And they are all virukshana dravyas, either virukshana dravya or virukshana charya. When it is kshutrit, it is not dravya, it is charya. Ullekhanasveda rukshapananna bheshajam takrarishtadi, all those things are there. You will find similar advices in many other contexts like stula chikitsa, etc., etc. So these are all virukshana chikitsa. And when you are going for virukshana, or when you use virukshana as a chikitsa, there also you should have a clear idea about its samyak yoga, how it can be done properly, not more, not less. No adi yoga, no hina yoga. So the next line tells us what are the Samyak Yoga Lakshanas of this sort of a Langhana Upacharanam in Sandarpanotha Vikara. Here we find Virukshane Langhanavad Krita Atikrita Lakshanam. Virukshane Langhanavad Krita Atikrita Lakshanam. Langhanavad, as in the case, as explained in the case of Langhanam. Langhanam yad laghuttvaya dehasya. What are the Langhanavad lakshanam? Langhana adhikrita lakshanam. Langhana hina krita lakshanam. Langhanavad krita adhikrita lakshanam. Hinam is again the presence of Snehhavyapat. Adhikritam means adhirukshanam, which will create that features which we have seen earlier in the Dvividhopakramaniyam chapter. What is happening when you use this Lankhanam in excess? Lankhanam in excess. We have gone through it in multiple times, I think. We will Adhikarsyam is there, Brahmam, Kasam, Trishnadhikyam, Arochakam, many things. Sneha, Agni, Nidra, Driksrotra, Shuklau, Jakshutswarakshayam. Many things you can find it in Dvividhopakramaniyam. What is the Krita Lakshanam? Krita Lakshanam means the Samyak Yoga Lakshanam of this Langhanam, which is the other day we have discussed it. Vimalendriyada, Sargo Malanam, Lakhavam Ruji, Kshutrad Sahodayaha, Shuddha Hridayudgara Kandhada, Vyadhimardavam, Ulsaha, Tandranashascha, Langhite. So we will find some of the features which are explained in the Vyapat getting resolved by proper Langhanam. Vimalendriyada Sargo Malanam Lakhavam Rujihi Kshutrad Sahodayaha Shuddha Hridayudgara Kandhada Vyadhimardavam Ulsaha Tandranashascha Langhite. So Virukshane Langhanavad Krita Atikrita Lakshanam. Then at this point we understand that a proper Snehana is done. A proper Snehana is done. Then our intention was to perform some Shodhana Chikitsa, Vamana Virechana Shodhana Chikitsa. So we find in the next line or lines what are the next proceedings in a proper Shodhana Chikitsa. We find Snigdha Dravoshna Dhannottara Sabhuk Swedamajaran Snigdha Triham Sthidaha Kuryad Virekam. Snigdha Dravoshna Dhannottara Sabhuk Swedamajaran Snigdhastriham Sthitaha Snigdhaha Triham Sthitaha Kuryad Viregam. So Viregam Kuryad. Viregam Kuryad. You may opt for doing Virechanam. Virechanam Kuryad. Virekaha Virekam Kuryad. In whose case these points are explained. Snigdhaha Virekam Kuryad. The Snigdhaha, somebody who has achieved Snehanam. Somebody who has achieved Snehanam is known as Snigdhaha. Snigdhaha viregam kuryad. How? Details. How it can be understood. Snigdhadravoshna dhanyotharasabhuk swedamajaran त्र्यहं स्थितः तत्पश्चात् वमनं विरेगं कुर्यात्. Snigdha, so after achieving this stage of snehana, samyak snehana, snigdhadravoshna dhanyottara very specific advice on the anna vidhi. Snigdha drava ushna, snigdha drava ushna धन्योत्थरस भुक, स्निग्ध भुक, द्रव भुक, उष्ण भुक, धन्योत्थरस भुक. So it should be snigdham, it should be dravarupi, it should be ushnam. Then dhanyotharasa yuktam. Dhanyotha rasa, rasam here mamsa rasam. Dhanyotharasam jangala mamsa rasam. So, dhanyotha rasa bhuk along with the snigdha drava ushna, some peya type or something like that, which can be snigdha drava and ushna, with along with the dhanyotha rasam. Then swedamacharan, so doing sweda, treham sthitaha, with these procedures done on a systematic way, on a proper way. Treham sthitaha, stay back for 3 days. Treham sthitaha, paschad viregam kuryad. Viregam kuryad. Snigdha dravoshna dhanyotthar sabhu swedamajaran. Snigdha treham sthitaha kuryad viregam. Kuryad viregam. Viregam kuryad. So the virejana kriya will be on the tat paschad on day 4. Treham sthitaha. Treham, 3 days. Sthitaha, maintaining. Maintaining the swedanam and the snigdhadravoshna dhanyotta rasabhojanam. Treham sthitaha tatpaschad chaturthe divase viregam kuryad. Viregam kuryad on the 4th day. How to do viregam, that we will find in a different chapter. Then vamanam punaha egaham dinam anyaccha kabhamulkleshya talkarai. Vamanam punaha egaham dinam anyaccha kabhamulkleshya talkarai. Vamanam punaha. In the case of vamanam, ekaham dinam swedamacharan sthitaha. Ekaham, ekaham, not dinam there. That aham itself is meaning is dinam. So ekaham swedam acharan. Ekaham evam swedam acharan sthitaha. That evam ekaham dinam anyaccha 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 anyad, the next anyad dinam, what should be done? Tatkaraihi kabhamulkleshya sthitaha. Anyad dinam, next day, tatkaraihi kabhamutkleshya sthitaha. Tatkaraihi kabhakaraihi, using kabha kara dravyas go for kabholklesanam. So first day Swedanam, Anyad dinam tat karaihi kabham utklesya. Second day tat karaihi kabhakaraihi kabhotklesanam. Then vamanam kuryad. On day 3, third day, go for the vamanam. So in Virejanam, Treham, Svedamacharan, Snigdhadravoshna Dhanyotha Rasabhuk, Viregam Kuryad. Vamanam Punaha, Egaham, Svedamacharan, Anyada Dinam Tatkaraihi Kabham Utklesyacha. Second day, using Kabha Varthaga Ushadhas and making Kabha Karam, Kabha Utklesham, then Vamanam Kuryad. Day 3, go for Vamanam. So that is the idea of Virejanam and Vamanam after Snehvanam. Snigdhadravoshna Dhanyotha Rasabhuk Swedamacharan Snigdhastriham Sthidaha Kuryad Viregam Vamanam Punaha Egaham Dinam Anyacha Egaham Dinam Anyacha Kabhamutklesya Tatkarai. There can be different practices in this regard. There can be differences in opinion in the way in which this shloka is commented on. It was all possible. But the interesting thing is that in the case of Vamanam, that Kabholklesanam should be complete in the Amashayam. Whereas that is not required in the case of Virejanam. Because Virejanam is not about bringing Kabholklesanam in the Amashayam, but it is about a dosha shodhanam from bit down, Pachyamanashayad, and its positions below that. So that sort of a Kabholklesanam is not required. Whereas you may find some Pittotklesana kriyas in certain textbooks, which we will discuss in the context of Vamana Virejana Viti. Here this is enough. Then next sloka, so being or having said all these things, there are some Vishesha Sandarbham, special situations where certain things are to be taken care of while practicing this Snehapanam. That is what we are going to see in the next sloka. What is that? Mamsala Medura Bhurishleshmano Vishamagnayah Snehojitascha ye snehyaha Tan purvam rukshayet tataha Samsnehya shodhayed evam snehavyapannā jayate alam malanirayidum snehaschasaatmyadam gataha. Mamsala medura bhurishleshmano vishamagnayah snehojitascha ye snehyaha tan purvam rukshayet tataha samsnehya shodhayedevam snehavyapannā jayate alam malanirayidum snehaschasaatmyadam gataha. We will see what is told here. Mamsalaha, those who are very rich in the mamsa. Here in many situations like this, there are some lack of specificity in the usage of words. We have to admit it. See, here we find Mamsalaha Meduraha. So those who are with the high amount or quantity of mamsa in their body is known as mamsalaha. Similarly, those with the uh, medas is known as uh, meduraha. Meduraha. But here it is not very specific about the mamsa dhadu or medo dhadu, but it shows in general the staulyam, sort of staulyam. So mamsalaha meduraha is indicative of the status of sthulata here. It need not be specific to the mamsa dhadu or medo dhadu, but in general, which shows the uh, shithila sneham, the presence of excessive amount of shithila sneham in the sharira. Bhurishleshmanaha, same idea. Bhurishleshmanaha. Here the word comes from the area of doshas. Shleshma. Bhuri shlesh. Bhuri. Bhuri means bhuri bhagaha. Shows the majority. So bhuri shleshmanaha. Those who are having shleshma as the major dosha. Vishamagnayaha. Vishamagni means those who are having inconsistent pattern of Agni. Inconsistent. Generally, it is believed to be a Vadika feature. But here that is quite difficult to understand or fix the matra of the sneha that can be given to an individual with a precision. We fail. So in Vishamagnita, it is very difficult. Then Snehojitaha. Snehojita. Those for whom the Sneha has become Uchita. Uchitam has got many meanings. The most commonly used meaning is the Uchitam, means proper or suitable. But there are other meanings as well, like something which is used to, something which has become a custom by repeated and long term practice. That is also known as Uchita. So here Snehochitam is doesn't mean that proper meaning. The word meaning is not proper, but here it is the shows the way in which the individual is accustomed to or used to or well acquainted with. These are all important meanings of Uchitam. So those who are well acquainted with the use of Sneha, those who are accustomed to the consumption of Sneha is known as Snehojitaha. Ye snehya. So a particular person who is snehya, something which is to be undergone the sneha na chikitsa, but medura mamsala bhurishleshmanaha vishamagnayaha snehochitaha cha. In such cases, a particular vyadhyavastha comes where he or she needs shodhana chikitsa and then snehana is to be done. or in any case need not be a part of a Shodhana Chikitsa, in particular condition he needs Sneha, then it is very important to note that Tan Purvam Rukshayed. The Rukshanopayas which we have seen earlier, they may be used Yathaswam Pradirogam cha. Yathaswam Pradirogam cha. Those may be that Kshutrishnollekhanaswasa. Sorry. Whatever Kshutrishnollekhanasveda Rukshapananna Bheshacham. That list what we have seen. So Tan Purvam Rukshayed, using these tools, first of all, Purvam Tan Rukshayed. Then, then what should be done when that samyak rukshanam, virukshane langhanavad kritati krita lakshanam. Then what should be done? Some snehya. Then again go for snehanam. Then only go for snehanam. Shodhayed. And then go for shodhanam. Evam. If you practice it like this, snehavyabad na jayate. Snehavyabad na jayate. There is no risk of a snehavyapad in the procedure. So in many conditions of current practice, where you suspect these sort of mamsala, medura, bhuri shleshmano, vishamagneya, snehojitascha, ye snehya, tan purvam rukshaye, using appropriate tool of rukshana. Go for a rukshana first, then some snehya shodhayed. Then what is advantage? Evam, if you follow this, snehavyapad na jayate. The chance of snehavyapad can be avoided. Snehavyapad na jayate. So that is the advantage, or that is a special situation where you have to take care of doing snehanam properly. With that, we will conclude. I think there are a couple of questions or points of discussion. One, whether these can be considered as specific sthana-oriented snehavyapathara or shobhahara dravyas. Means that kshutrishnollekhanasveda rukshapananna bheshaja. Yes, they can be considered like that. But in any case, tishtatyubari yuktijnaha. So the Vaidya should be using them with a sense of proper understanding and discretion. Then all these things, each one of them can be considered as the excellent for a specific sthana. Then the late night dinner causing amatraya sneha lakshanas. Amatraya hita. Is it due to sneha processing present in the dinner, or is it samprapti of akala bhojanam? Yes, both are there. Both are can be there, I think. Late night dinner is a very risky thing because see Agni is Agneyam and is a representative of the Surya. Tridoshas are compared with Surya Soma Nilaha. So Agni is a representation of Surya, and when there is no Surya actively influencing the body, Agni in the body also will be a bit recessive or dormant. And from the sunset to the midnight, the sort of that uh, withdrawal of Agni or Surya will be increasing matra by matra, second by second, or minute by minute. And maybe after midnight, it may be slowly reversing, and with the sunset, that may again open the door to the Agni. So slowly, of course, that other considerations like that vayoho ratri bhuktanam tendam adhyadiga, all those things are also interestingly considered. But basically in this Agni Karma, this late dinner is a very very important contributing factor. So it can be the sneha presence in the dinner, and also in the due to the improper pajanam of the ahara, because of the absence or the recessive stage of agni. Then why need to bring about kapha utklesha in namashaya for vamana? For making the process proper and complete. Otherwise, there will not be a proper evacuation or a complete evacuation and proper shuddhi of the kapha. That is the reason for kapha kleshna in amashya. So I think those points are discussed and settled. So I think we will wind up here till we meet again on the in our next session. Shubharatri to all.
Thank you, Prasad sir, for yet another session. As you said, we will wind up for today and meet in our next session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Shubharatri.
Shubharatri.